All right, I think we're live now. Welcome everybody to our episode of SSP Live. I'm glad to have you guys. We're going to be talking about a lot of AFC and NFC stuff. So be sure to stick around as we dive into the playoff pictures. Thanks again for joining us and subscribing on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. And you can always find our podcasts on Apple Podcasts as well as Spotify. So let's just jump right in. The first thing we want to talk about is the conundrum that was the Dolphins-Raiders game. Had a really good ending. Kind of a game where the Raiders threw it away after kind of being gifted the game in my eyes. And we can talk a little bit more about that. But what did you guys think of the way that game turned out? Cool. Well, I guess it wasn't much of a game then.
No, I thought it was I watched the whole game. I thought it was good. I think there's a lot of people that have strong opinions about Gruden's coaching at the end. A lot of people have strong opinions about Flores and making the coaching change. A lot of people have strong opinions about Tua versus Ryan Fitzpatrick, and I just don't have very strong opinions from it. I think that it was the end of the game happened the way it was. I think it was a bunch of players that made poor mistakes. I think I just saw on Twitter the other day that Mike Mayock was coaching the secondary in the second half of that game. He was helping to coach the secondary of the Raiders because they got rid of Gunther. And so, a lot of people want to be giving crap to Gruden. But I'm just not in that camp. So, yeah, a lot of bizarre stuff happening. And you know what? It's the Raiders. What do you expect?
First off, I did not hear that report about Mike Mayock coaching the secondary. Yeah. For those of you who don't know, Mike Mayock is the GM. So it's very unusual to have a GM coaching a unit.
Anything?
I know they just fired.
Don't give Jerry Jones any ideas.
Yeah, well, I think Jerry's more of when he intervenes, it's big time decisions, but not hands-on coaching. Mayock knows his stuff. We've all heard, him
right.
Scouting combine. The guy knows, probably knows how to coach, but it's just interesting. I hadn't heard that. That's pretty telling. Their defense is terrible. That's their problem. Their offense is a really good offense this year. And that's Gruden's thing. But the question is, can Gruden get their defense together in the next year or two, or he's not really going to be there very long. So anyway, to the game itself, I thought it was a really good game. I was sitting there thinking after it ended, we just had Cleveland and Baltimore game of the year. This might have been second best game of the year. Saturday night, prime time, holiday weekend, big time matchup, playoff implications. Not as much for the Raiders as they would have been had they not lost the week before. But I know, Juddy, you were all up in arms about the pass interference call. Yes, it was a bad call, but look, we see bad calls influence games all the time. So I wouldn't say that the Raiders were gifted being in the position to where they should have won. I feel like the Raiders kind of it was a back and forth game. Nobody had complete control, so to speak. But I feel like the Raiders, slightly outplayed them and were in position to win on their own accord, not because of the refs, even though that last call did assist them. So to say that they would have been gifted the win, I think is not not very accurate. That being said, they should have won that game with or without the call, given how it played out. You should never let a team with 19 seconds, come back when they have, average field position and get into field goal range on you. Terrible penalty. And to me, the penalty's not as bad as the fact that you let a guy get behind you that deep.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Okay, 15-yard penalties happen. That would have been fine, but you gave up 15 on top of a 30-yard throw to put you in field goal range in one play. What are you doing if you're the Raiders? What the heck are you doing? Maybe it's because your GM's coaching. That probably that's probably a big issue when it's that bad.
But I have the article pulled up here. It says Isaiah Johnson was the guy who got burnt, and he's a reserve cornerback who's just in his second season. So Jeff Heath, and you know who Jeff Heath is, Aggie.
I do.
Him and Mike Mayock were coaching because their defensive coaches were out because of the COVID protocol, and they just fired the defensive coordinator. So you got Jeff Heath coaching and Mayock.
To me, regardless, when you have that much time on the clock, as a defender, the one thing you can't do is let someone get behind you. Yep. You make them throw short, and you come up and make a tackle. Period.
So first of all, if it's because of COVID protocol was a part of why he was coaching, that's a different story. That's not so much about the team being at this rate. But yeah, the cornerback immediately got into like a 5-yard drop and then played the flat. You don't play the flat
Why
route with 19 seconds left and give up 30 yards down plus giving up the sideline. You don't do that, dude. You play a zone, you drop 20, 25 yards and you give the flat route, give them their 12 yards, or come down and make the tackle. That's just, I mean, you don't even have to know that, like be any sort of level of football to know that. You don't take the flat route there, you take the deep.
You just don't let them beat you deep.
That's just terrible. You don't need a coach to tell you that. That's just, if you've been playing football and you don't know that, then you don't need to be playing. So, the game revealed to me, though, a little bit about Miami. They kind of are who I think they are. The way the Raiders were reeling, they should have been able to handle the Raiders, and they weren't. They were basically, kind of gifted the win themselves, if you would, to use Juddy's terminology the other way. So we'll see what Miami can do. We'll get in a little bit about what they have left to do to still get in. But it was a great game.
Well, what do you guys think?
The last 6 minutes of the game were crazy, right?
Yeah.
It was like,
I mean, that was obviously the best part of the game. So what do you guys make of the whole dual quarterbacks? I saw somebody commented today on Twitter, and they were saying like, if the whole adage of like, if you have two quarterbacks and you don't have one kind of thing. But what do you think? Do you think they're going to move forward with Fitzpatrick? Do you think Tua's going to start again, and they're okay with the whole like, hey, let's let our defense try to keep us in the game or win it in the first half and then see what happens with Tua? If he has a good game, we keep him in. If not, we need a spark, we just go to Fitzmagic. Like, is that going to be feasible for them to actually do?
I mean, maybe right now in the short term, they could be doing that kind of stuff if they feel like if everybody in their team buys into that philosophy. And right now it's just kind of a part of the grooming of Tua to kind of keep him coming along and learning. But if they still think the rest of their team is kind of good enough to maybe try to win some, if they put Fitzpatrick in those spots, then they could. But look, I know like when we picked this game, I think I was the only one to pick the Raiders, and I picked them because I didn't think Tua was necessarily good enough to win this type of game in a big situation right now just yet. And I kind of feel like I got proved right on that instance because they had to go to Fitzpatrick to do it. And even with that, at the end there, it was the Raiders who really blew it in Raider fashion. You know what I mean?
They did. The Raiders blew it. But even before the last drive, as soon as Fitzpatrick gets in the game, they're slinging it and they're moving the ball down the field.
You saw an immediate difference.
Yeah. So short, just to make it short for me, Fitzpatrick should be starting in my eyes. And it's unusual to me
he's a better
that two times, first of all, we talked about how it was an unusual timing when the Dolphins just got to like 4-2, and then all of a sudden we're going with Tua. So it's like that was the first red flag. Like, okay, it seems like maybe this is a sign from above, or a call from the front office and not the coach, because you just got the team in a winning track. The quarterback's playing well enough, and you got a good defense. Like that was weird to me. Then this is the second time since you started Tua. It was 3 or 4 weeks ago that they took Tua out to put Fitzpatrick in. Now you've done it again, and the second time it works to absolute charm. He leads the comeback. It was instantaneous how the offense was bland all night, and he come in 2 touchdown drives right down the field with Fitzpatrick, and then the last minute field goal to get it done, which I know a lot of that was luck, but like you watch that and you say, okay, you've replaced Tua twice since you went to Tua, and it was already weird to me that you put Tua in. It tells me that Brian Flores knows that Fitzpatrick is better for this team right now, but we're not worried about winning as much right now. We're worried about getting ready for the future so that we can maybe win big by next year, because maybe they feel like even with Fitzpatrick, we're probably not a Super Bowl contender. I totally disagree with that. If I'm a fan or I'm a player and you go to this guy when you need him, that tells me as a player, this is the guy we know we need, but we're ignoring it for future. When we've got a playoff team right now, who knows what could happen? Do I think Miami could win a Super Bowl? No, but it doesn't matter. You get in the playoffs, you make a run, you never know what could happen. You got to do every year, year by year, go all the way. And I understand the future plays into this, but if it was me and I was a player, and every time you bring the guy in, it's when like you feel like you need him, or so obviously to an extent. And I keep hearing this business about, oh well, Tua is the starter and Fitz is the closer. This is not baseball. There are no relief pitchers. They need to have Fitzpatrick in the game. If they're going to go to him when they need him, you just play him the whole game, and that increases your chances of playing. I think they need to be starting Fitzpatrick, and I don't even think it's that close.
First of all, I think the starter and closer thing is just this cute little thing that they're doing right now, just to kind of try and keep this like little competitive thing, from becoming something more. I have a short-term take and a long-term take. I'm going with my short-term. I think why Fitzpatrick is better, right, like in certain situations right now, is because of his experience. So like the Dolphins are completely depleted on offense, right? They don't have one starting receiver, I don't think, that started the year either. They don't have a starting. Mike Gaskin finally got back last week. And so I feel like knowing that they don't have as many weapons is not conducive to developing as much. Fitzpatrick, on the other hand, knows how to play with those guys. He's just a gunslinger. He's just going to throw it. He's going to trust those guys no matter what. That's what Fitzpatrick does. So I agree with you, Trav, that maybe right now he's the better option. The second thing that I think on the long-term view, and the thing that I don't think we're thinking about, currently right now, Miami has the number 3 overall pick into this draft in 23 because they have Houston's pick. It is my opinion that they are evaluating Tua because if they need to, they will be willing to use the number 3 pick to go get another quarterback if they don't feel like Tua is the guy. And so I think that the front office said we need to know what we have because it's projected now that they're going to have the number 3 overall pick. And you know what? The most important position in football is the quarterback. And I think they're just looking to evaluate him. That's why they made that decision when they did.
That's interesting, Dan. And I'm not saying they're not doing that, but is half a season or a little over half a season from when they went to him, is that really enough to where you know if you're going to pull the trigger on a number 3 pick or not? To me, it's not.
I mean, for some people it was. Like Josh Rosen barely got a chance in the NFL, and they were just like, you know what, this guy, we know he's not what it is.
Yeah, I just think that to say that you're going to be like, all right, we need to see 10 games and we'll know if we need to take another guy here at 3 with this pick or not is, I don't know. I don't think that, to me, I disagree with that because I would never evaluate a quarterback after 10 games and make a decision based off that.
If you're at number 3 and like Justin Fields is there or some of these guys, like this is a really good QB class right now. You have to at least think about it. I think that the most important position on the field is QB. So if Tua is not the guy and you invest something in at number 3 on another position, and 2 years from now you don't have your quarterback, but you have all these other really good players, we can see in the NFL what having bad quarterback play is doing all over the NFL. So
yeah, we'll have to.
Do I think that?
We'll have to talk about that more. We're getting short on time for that segment. But our panel of commenters in the chat do agree with you, Trav, that they think Fitzmagic is the way to go, and he gives them the best chance to win now. I have a weird feeling that they're going to start Tua this week.
Yeah, all indications are they're starting Tua, regardless of what people want. They're supposed to be, as far as what I understand, they're starting Tua.
Yeah, and there's some people that think that Fitzpatrick, that given this opportunity that he's never played in a playoff game, this and that, and he has a chance, that they're saying that he's actually playing a little bit more reserved than his usual gunslinger mentality, and he's actually playing better for it. But we'll have to talk more about that after we see what happens on Sunday against the Bills, who kind of control the destiny of one of the 4 teams that are left to get in. And one of those teams that's on the outside looking in right now is the Colts, after what was a pretty big meltdown on Sunday after having a 17-point lead near the end of the third quarter. The Steelers. What did you guys make of that game? I mean, the whole first half we were sitting there talking about how terrible the Steelers continued to look.
Hey, let's not call it a meltdown. Let's call that a great comeback by the boys. The boys in black and gold. Man, what a thrilling win. That made me feel great on a personal note. But yeah, it was a little bit of both. You got to believe the Colts, maybe they went into just a little bit more of a softer defense. And then just relaxed a little bit. But both sides of the ball, I put it more on the Steelers. I just think the Steelers finally did what they're capable of doing and throwing the ball downfield, which leads to kind of the bigger questions like, okay, have the Steelers fixed their issues? I think that remains to be seen. We'll get a little into that later. But another great game. I think it was the first comeback for the Steelers in the Tomlin era of 17 points or more, which is kind of crazy to think about. But it was nice to see the Steelers actually not just throw dink and dunk. They got the ball down the field. They're capable of doing that. They showed they're capable of doing that. Now the issue is, can they sustain that? But good to see that at least for a half. They clinched the division. And I think they show what they're capable of for all the people out there that just because they're not being mentioned at all right now. Nobody is considering them as a threat to the Chiefs. And I think, I wouldn't put them up there above the Bills or anything, but I think other than the Bills, they're right. I mean, and I think they can beat the Bills in the playoffs if they get their stuff together. But I don't think anybody's putting them up there. And I think they're a team that's shown here, given their defense and what they're capable of and have the horses they have on offense, that they can do this thing.
I definitely think one of the things that you can take out of all this talk that was happening earlier in the week and just since the last couple of games on the skid about Ben, is he done? Oh, I don't know if his arm's right. He doesn't look like he can throw the ball anymore. I think that second half answered a lot of questions about what Ben is capable of right now, in his career and whether or not he's done,
Yeah, I mean, I
could have told you that last week.
Yeah, I mean, Trav's been
you did the whole time.
Trav's been the true believer every time about he just still wasn't convinced, even with the bad games and the bad streak.
It was two bad games.
Yeah, well, it was 3.5. It was 3.5. If you look back, Washington was not that great of a game.
but not
Ben,
as
that
far
was
as
drops.
Ben goes.
No, no,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not talking
yeah,
about the
yeah. I know
offense.
that.
I'm
I get that. Okay,
I'm
you're
talking
saying
about
just Ben.
Ben.
Okay.
Yeah, the offense has played bad for 6 weeks, but
Yeah.
just Ben was 2 bad games
Yeah,
for
2
Ben.
bad games for Ben. Yeah, straight up 2 bad games.
2.5 because he
and
played
really,
terrible
not
in
a
the first
good,
half of the
good
Colts
first
game
half.
too.
I don't know. Part of me thinks that there is some merit to be said about like there was the whole during the halftime speech like we're not having fun, we need to have fun out there, this and that. I think that there is a true there is some merit that goes to like if you start getting so like built up with all this tension of like crap, we lost our first game, okay, then we lost our second game, wow, now we just lost to the Bengals, like what are we doing? Like you're not going to be able to have fun and you're not going to play well if you're up there stiff. If you're looking very tight, like we have to win this game or everybody's going to continue to think
But not only just losing, but if you look at the offensive performance for 6 weeks since about the Dallas game, which was like week 9 or 10, if you look at or like I think week 9, so if you look at the offense in Ben and imagine the offense's mind, like yeah, we've won, but we as an offense haven't played well in like 5 or 6 weeks.
Yep.
So like I think you alluded to it last week, Juddy. Like we've never seen Ben play that way, and you were kind of like, I think he's just pressing and he feels the pressure to do so much because the offense is so out of sync. And I think maybe the speech he gave about having fun, maybe that speaks to some of that being true.
Yeah.
And one other thing I want to say, look at it from the Colts perspective. All right. You're about to take care of business. No one would have thought the comeback would have, as bad as Pittsburgh's played on offense. No one's thinking that comeback's going to happen. If you're the Colts, you're thinking, all right, we're going to win this game. Tennessee's got Green Bay tonight, which, Green Bay ends up beating them. The Colts are like, hey, we're going to take this division. And all of a sudden they go from looking like a great chance to win the division. In worst case, we're still in a position to make the playoffs to we're on the outside looking in. We're the 7 seed now and we need help. So really crazy how it flipped for the Colts. They could not afford to let that happen, and they did.
Yeah. I mean, it was, to me, it looked like a lot of it, obviously the offense got it together and, there was the whole talk and the rumors of, Ben calling plays they hadn't practiced in a while, like bringing out some old plays and kind of modifying them. I think we all can agree that it did seem like Ben was calling the shots in the second half. So we'll see if that's what the trend continues. And I feel like I'll just make another plug every week after week that maybe at the end of this year, Randy Fichtner will be gone and they won't renew his contract. So we'll see what plays out with that. But yeah, you feel bad for the Colts, but at the same time, I don't feel that bad because I very vividly remember a 17-point lead that the Steelers had 24-7 over the Chargers back when Phillip Rivers was with them, and we lost that game, and it kind of derailed our playoff chances as well. So hopefully we return the favor against the Colts. Yeah, I mean.
Cool. Now I can take the hat off.
Yeah, I'm sure you're burning up.
Aggie, don't you think it's amazing that they spent that whole segment, the 2 Steeler fans just took it over?
I mean,
nobody cares what you have to say. Nobody cares what you have to say about it, Dan.
Hashtag Bogarting.
I really don't have much to say because we've talked about.
We talked about it the whole time.
I have Steelers fatigue right now.
Yeah. So
hey,
now that
all
we're
the ones that had to talk about the loss last week.
So we're gonna move.
That was a different angle. That was a different angle.
We're gonna
I'm
move into the
tired of
AFC.
hearing about Randy Fichtner.
Yeah, I bet
Tomlin
you are.
doesn't
So am
want to fire him.
I'm tired of hearing
I
about him
don't
too, Dan. So let's talk about the AFC playoff picture, and then we'll go into the NFC. So right now we know there's 4 teams that are fighting for that. Basically, those last 3 spots, and the Colts are on the outside looking in. So the Bills got to play Miami, and they kind of like the thing me and Trav have been talking about a lot is that a lot of the seeding and a lot of the playoff picture hinges on, are the Bills going to play their starters? Can they beat Miami without their starters? Because all the teams that are in right now are win and they're in. So if Miami beats the Bills, the Browns beat us, and Baltimore beats Cincinnati, then the Colts are out. But you start mixing things around. If the Bills beat Miami, Miami can still get in, but they need help. They need, maybe Jacksonville to beat the Colts, or they need Tennessee to lose. If Tennessee loses to Houston, then that's a whole other, ball game that we're looking at.
Well, one of the things of like this AFC picture, like I've heard Trav say earlier, like Miami is who we thought they were. What happened to the Browns? They didn't have their receivers, but they still had 2 healthy running backs, 2 healthy tight ends, and you got beat by the Jets. Like they got beat by that's tough, though, you can't have that loss.
What happened to the Jets, man? Where'd that come from the last 2 weeks?
Listen, you lose all your receivers essentially, all your relevant receivers. That's tough, man.
On pretty short notice too.
And if you're the Jets, what are you gonna do? Stuff the box. So you're not necessarily just gonna be able to say you got your 2 healthy running backs. Well, not if you put 9 in the box and you don't have a receiver that can do anything. Yep. So, look, should they have still won the game? I mean, I think there's a strong argument to say you got to find a way. But I'm not just going to out and out say, like, oh, the Browns, here's the Browns, doing Browns things, because that's a different circumstance. If that wouldn't have happened.
I don't think they're doing Brown things.
With the receivers,
but I'm just saying.
Like, that's terrible that you cannot have that loss. But the Jets just beat the Rams, and then you're coming into them with no receivers. It wasn't that surprising to me once we knew about the receivers.
The Jets beating.
Yeah.
Look, it's
the
still an
Browns.
NFL football
Yeah, it's
team,
still
and you
the
have
NFL.
three
Yeah.
new guys that haven't had any reps with you.
I just
Like,
don't feel like that. I
they're
don't feel
obviously
like
not
that's
gonna be that good. They're
reasonable,
off
especially
practice
if we
squad.
thought
But Dan,
If we
every
thought-
week you say Philly, oh, they don't have any healthy receivers.
they don't.
Well, this is on short notice. They got all their receivers decimated. So I don't know how that's any different.
Well, this is different. First of all, because
Philly's not
Philly
beating
has
any teams either,
Philly
regardless
has-
if it's the Jets or not. So
Yep.
Philly has a lot more going on, and we don't need to talk about a non-playoff team, even though Puddin says we can. We shouldn't talk about a non-playoff team at this point, but I just thought that was really shocking. It's not like like 2 weeks ago, the Jets were the like laughing stock of the league, literally the worst team in the NFL, and now all of a sudden they beat like two decent teams in the last 2 weeks, which
And they should have beat the Raiders if not for a miracle too.
And I'll say
Yeah.
this about it too,
Yeah.
about the Browns. Maybe the Browns just aren't as good because I know you were a little hyped. Y'all, I think Aggie, you and Dan were kind of hyping the Browns to a point where I'm like, because I don't think Baker's not the kind of guy that can lose his receivers. Now, no quarterback in that spot. It's a tough spot, like I just said. But Baker's certainly not the guy that can elevate receivers to me because they rely
Yeah,
too much
he
on their
needs
running
help.
game.
He needs guys
and
around him
stuff.
for sure.
So I think also it's part of it's just the Browns to me have been overrated in this last 5 weeks where they've been kind of starting to really get on a hot streak. I still don't think they're as good as most people think they are. So I think that was.
Well,
part of it.
I think what Aggie and I were talking about with the Browns was more to do with the fact that we're not believers in the Ravens, and so when the Browns were
Yeah,
going to play the
but
Ravens,
it kind of
that
blows
we-
my mind that y'all would think the Browns are better than the Ravens, and I think now you're kind of seeing it.
Well, no, I never
Play
said
out.
the Browns were
I'm
better
just
than
saying
the
I'm
Ravens.
shocked
I
by
never
that.
said that. Dan had that take. Dan
I
was
think
big
I-
on. I think the Browns are a better team than the Ravens. He
Oh, I
thought
know,
they
you-
were a more complete, better football
Rand-
team. I never
Dan
said
thought
that.
the Ravens weren't going to make the playoffs. He's had the Ravens, which he had the Ravens and the Colts out, I believe. Which right now the Colts looks like they are going to be out, but the Ravens, I said all along, they're going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, they are. They are going to make the
And,
playoffs.
and short of a meltdown against Cincinnati, they are. So
And here's my take on the Ravens, real quick. I think they're a good football team. I'm not going to sit here and say they're a bad football team or that they can't win some in the playoffs. And I might anger a certain viewer of ours who's a big Ravens guy. And a birthday shout out to that viewer. Gary, happy birthday today.
Happy birthday,
Um,
cuz.
Gary.
Hope you're listening. I think the Ravens are a decent football team. They're good, but I've just been seeing so much hype in the last 3 or 4 weeks since they've had this little winning streak, but they haven't beat anybody good. So if we think the Browns are a good football team, okay, they beat the Browns twice and they beat the Colts. And that's the only teams they've beaten that have a winning record. They lost to Pittsburgh twice. They lost to Tennessee. They lost to Kansas City. Their wins are two against the Browns, the Bengals, the whole NFC East, the Jags, and the Texans.
Look, I think
Those are
it's
all
fair
the
to say. And I know it's Aggie. Your big thing is you're annoyed at how much this
Overhyped.
last couple weeks they beat
I don't
up
like
on some
hyping them
bad
up
teams.
when they haven't beat anybody yet.
Yeah, they beat up on some bad teams, and now everyone's like, "Oh, Ravens back on track."
Oh, you just
so I
beat the
can understand
Bengals
being
and the
annoyed with
Giants
that.
and the
I'll say
Jags.
this.
Great job. You know?
I can't knock you for calling out their schedule and looking at it from that standpoint. Like as we're like looking at like college, like a resume, it doesn't look that great. But I'll disagree with you, and I'll stand firm at the risk of Dan calling me a Ravens fan again. I'll stand firm on the fact that I think their football team is built really well. They're just organizationally, they're a team that knows how to win. They know how to build teams. Harbaugh knows how to coach. They're a team that can win big. They are a good team. I knew all along they were going to make the playoffs. They would right the ship. COVID, the whole thing that happened with that did not help their cause.
Sure.
They probably, very likely would have ended up beating Pittsburgh in that game.
Probably
And
beat the
now things
Patriots.
look a little bit different with their record, but they're probably going to end up 11-5, which is not too shabby. I know their schedule's soft, just like the whole AFC North was because they got to play the NFC East, but I stand behind the fact that Baltimore can do damage in the playoffs. As much as I hate it, I stand by that.
I'll add to that because there's two teams in two teams in the AFC that I do not want to play in the first round of the playoffs, and Baltimore is one of them. The other one's Kansas City, which isn't going to happen, obviously. But it's looking like they are going to play in the first round, most likely, given many of the circumstances.
Baltimore and Pittsburgh are destined, just the way I see some of the results. Like, if this happens, well, if that happens, then the way the seedings are sliding, I think Baltimore and Pittsburgh are on a crash course for that first round.
Which
And if I was
sucks.
picking that
My
game right
question
now,
for
I'd
you
pick
guys
Baltimore.
is,
I would too.
you know the scenarios, and I'll start with you, Dan. Do you think the Colts are just going to end up being out? You think all the other three teams ahead of them, including Tennessee for the division, will win, and then the Colts are on the way out? Who do y'all think's the team left out in the AFC?
I think it's the Colts or the Dolphins. I don't know.
Colts
it
are,
just
yeah,
depends.
it's
Me, the
it is
Dolphins
the
are the
Colts or
wild card.
Dolphins.
I agree. I
Dolphins
think
are
it's
the
the
wild
Colts or
card on if
Dolphins,
they win.
and it's like we just said. If the Bills play their guys and they play the whole game and they play to win, I see Buffalo taking care of Miami pretty easily, whether it's
Definitely.
Fitzpatrick or Tua. And then I think all the other teams are going to win, so I would say Miami's on the outs. But
Who
I
are the
think
Colts playing? Are the Colts playing
Sean
the Texans?
McDermott,
Jacksonville.
when they asked Sean McDermott,
Jacksonville. Oh.
are they going to play their guys? McDermott said no decision has been made. I
They're
think,
gonna play
to
'em.
me, that leads me to believe that he's at least considering it heavily to sit them. I think they will end up sitting enough guys and maybe lose enough of the energy where the game doesn't matter to where it's going to help Miami. And so Miami will probably get in, even though all along I thought they were out. I think they're going to get a little bit of help, one, by the miracle that happened with the Raiders, and two, by Buffalo sitting their guys. And so maybe they sneak in. So I would lean towards saying the Colts are out because Miami's going to get an easy game against Buffalo, not the game they would have gotten how it looked on their schedule. And it's going to be an easier
Well,
path.
the problem with Buffalo potentially, like, it depends because, right now they're the number 2 seed, and if they would lose and Steelers would win, then they would become the 3 seed, and then I almost feel like Buffalo has to play. So
Right.
do
Well,
the
let me ask you this,
Steelers.
Dan. So there's to get the 2 seed, there's no bye this year, so you lose that incentive, and there's no
Right.
fans in the stands. So is it really that big of a deal to play your guys? And 3,
It's
the
more about who
Steelers
you
have an
play
even
than
better,
it is that.
the Steelers have an even better chance of losing not playing Ben, which has already been announced that they're not playing
Listen,
Ben.
I firmly
All
disagree.
three
I
of
think
those
Mason
things-
Rudolph is going to have a revenge game from getting hit in the head by a helmet. I think the Steelers might actually beat Cleveland and keep them out. That's who
They
I
might.
think Cleveland's going to be out.
Wow. Okay.
Big take right there,
It's
man.
just what I think. That's what I
Look,
feel.
if one of those receivers tests positive and they lose it, or a couple of them, and they don't have those guys again, I could see it happening.
Yeah.
And I could see the Steelers with Rudolph because of their defense, and they'll probably play most of their defensive starters
to.
still. I could see them
They have
beating
to, yeah,
Cleveland,
they're
but
not
I
that
wouldn't.
depth right
I
now.
wouldn't pick it. I wouldn't pick that to happen. I think Cleveland gets it done, knowing they have to. So,
I think that the Dolphins have the defense that would allow them to stay in any game, even if Josh Allen does play in that game. I think that the Dolphins have a defense that can keep that game close for long enough to possibly pull something out at the end. So I'm not looking at, and it's a division game, right? Buffalo and Miami. So I'm not automatically, even if both teams play their entire lineup, I'm still not going to sit here and be like,
I hope they do.
Buffalo's
I hope they
definitely
do
gonna
because
win.
I
I do too.
just want to see that game. I want to see how Buffalo looks against Miami. I think it's a really good matchup. I don't know what happened the first
So-
time. I believe Buffalo won it, but I don't know how it played out. But Buffalo is a much better team now. Miami's probably a better team now. So I'd actually like to see that matchup, and you might get that matchup in the playoffs
I get
anyway.
the Fitzpatrick revenge game back in Buffalo, right?
Yeah.
If
You might get that game in the playoffs. Like, let's say Buffalo rests their guys and Miami wins. You might get that in the first round.
So here's the thing. It kind of
second round,
benefits.
I mean.
It kind of benefits the Bills to let Miami win though, because if they let Miami win, they get Miami in that round, and in a lot of these scenarios. And I was talking to Trevor about this a couple
Potentially.
weeks ago. A lot of this, I think 80% of the scenarios, unless for some reason, like you said, the Colts lose to the Jags or Baltimore loses to Cincinnati.
But what in the scenario where everybody wins? Miami stays the 5 seed, right?
That's correct. Miami
So
gets
that's,
in.
to me, if Miami wins, the most likely scenario is that Cleveland wins a game they should win against the backup. The Ravens win, the Colts win, which
So
then
the
they're
most
out
likely
in
scenario
Tennessee.
then has Steelers Ravens, which we knew. It has Buffalo playing Cleveland, and then it has
Right.
Tennessee at
Right.
yeah.
If Miami wins, they're
Miami.
probably going to be the 5 seed. If Miami wins, they're probably going to be the
Right.
5 seed. So I don't know where you're getting off 80% that they're going to
Well,
play
a
Miami.
lot of the ones, all the scenarios that I just did, it's if the other teams, if the Steelers win, or if Titans lose, or if all
Titans
these
aren't
other-
going to lose. Well, they might, but
That's
if
the
they
one-
lose, then if they lose and everybody else wins, is Tennessee out?
Yes.
If Tennessee loses and everybody else is in, Tennessee's out.
So we have a viewer on Facebook who said Houston's going to upset Tennessee and they're going to be out with the Colts win. So we
That's
got some people who
possible.
but what's funny is just like a couple weeks ago we had all these people saying, and specifically viewers, and specifically I believe it was this viewer, Greg Ferry, who said that he thought that we were sleeping on Tennessee. Now he thinks that they're not going to get in. They're going to lose with the
Make your
They're
mind
gonna-
up. Make
yeah.
your mind
So
up there,
Look,
Greg.
let me
Greg
address
Ferry, we're going to
Tennessee.
need you to stand on a pillar here, buddy.
I thought that Tennessee had the perfect opportunity to show that they were still a physical football team and go and punch Green Bay in the mouth in a snow game. You would think that would lend itself towards a running game, but no, they didn't. They got punched in the mouth by Green Bay. Green Bay was the more physical team, and they just they did everything they wanted to them on both sides.
I don't think the Titans knew what to do in the snow. I think that had a big part
Yeah.
of it.
They just
had
looked
their
shell
footing.
shocked
So-
from the beginning. Yeah.
So we gotta move on to the NFC. Before we do that, I just want to take a moment to shout myself out for being the only one to predict all 4 games correctly. So I just do want to say that no faith in the Steelers or the Packers from any of the panel.
We had
except
a
for me.
quick rebuttal on Facebook Live. Greg Ferry believes Uncle G believes that the Titans are just going in the wrong direction at this point. So he is moving
I'm
himself
pulling-
away from them.
I'm actually pulling for the Titans to
Wishy-washy.
win or for the Titans to lose because if the Titans lose the game and the Colts win that division, then it puts the Steelers playing against Cleveland in that round. So I will gladly take that. So I'm now a hardcore Texans fan. And I also think that J.J. Watt's speech is going to fire them up a little bit. I don't know if you guys watched that video I sent you, but
The
he's
Colts
pretty
nearly. I mean,
impassioned.
the Colts nearly lost to Houston
Twice.
twice, and Houston's been
Yep.
dangerous this last half just because of Deshaun Watson. But
Yeah,
so,
you have Deshaun
that's-
Watson. Anything can happen.
That's definitely possible. I wouldn't be shocked.
It makes
by
me wonder. Like
That's why he's in Trav's top 5.
I think the Colts are still. Or I don't know if Philip Rivers is there next year. I don't know who the
He was only
quarterback
on a
is. It
one-year
could be.
deal.
Carson
It could be a
Wentz?
guy. Could be a guy in Philly. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. But like we knew
He's
that
got
Philip
rapport with
Rivers
the
was gonna.
coach.
Philip Rivers was gonna Philip Rivers the second half of that game. That's what he does best.
Yep.
He did in San Diego for most of his career. It's why Ben was the
appreciate
top QB in that draft.
I appreciate your predestined text there, Dan, about just wait, Philip Rivers will Philip Rivers this during the game.
Yeah,
when
I
we
mean
were
that's what he
losing.
does, and he's gonna have an unfortunate empty hand, and they're gonna return it for a touchdown. He's just tragic, man. It's like
Yep.
unbelievable sometimes.
Well, switching over to the NFC, we don't have to spend as much time because it's kind of clear cut. But I will say a funny stat that I read when we were talking about the Jets earlier is that the Jets have as many wins against over 500 teams as the Packers do this season. So what do you got? I mean, what do you guys think? Honestly, do you think? Let's talk about who's going to get in. Do we think the Bears are going to win and get in, or do you think Arizona is going to get in? I know there's a
Now
chance
the
the Rams
Bears
could
out.
miss it as
The
well.
Bears are playing the Packers. It kind of depends on what the Packers do.
Look, man, it's crazy because all right, so the Rams have absolutely really blown it with their loss to the Jets. It's crazy how the Jets are really
Spoiler.
putting the playoff hopes of the Browns in jeopardy, and it very
And the
well
Rams.
could have ended up screwing the Rams. I don't know if y'all know this. Goff broke his thumb. He's out for
He's
this season.
out.
So they're
Oh,
back
so is
to
Darrell
I've
Henderson.
never heard of.
So
John
is their
Wolford.
starting running back.
Yeah, I know, and their running back's out too. So you got your starting running back and your starting cornerback gone. You got John Wolford, who I believe is like a free agent like a rookie free agent type.
Yeah, last
like,
pass
never
he threw
started.
was in the XFL.
Yeah. So
They play the Bears this week.
They play the Cardinals.
Or the Cardinals. Oh,
Cardinals.
Here's how it
Rams,
breaks down.
Cardinals.
The Cardinals play the Rams, right? So whoever wins that game will
Has
be
the
ahead
path.
of the other one. So if
Yep.
the Cardinals win, they're in, and then over the Rams, and then the Rams would have to hope that the Bears lose. And the Bears play the Packers, who are playing all their guys because they need to clinch the 1 seed.
They
Though
go
the
with
Packers
Saints,
are going to
yep.
play their guys, so I gotta believe
Probably the Packers are going to win.
the Packers should win that game,
Yep.
which means that
The
I
Rams
think
will
it's going to
get
end
in.
up being the Cardinals and the Rams get in. The Cardinals will be the 6th seed.
You think the
Rams
Cardinals will
be
win that
the
game
7th
then?
seed, and then the Rams just have to hope and pray.
I
that
think the
Goff-
Cards will win.
If the Cards
Yeah,
lose,
but
if
the
the
backup-
Cards lose and Bears lose, are the Cardinals still in, or do the Bears get in?
Yes.
the
The
Bears
Cardinals
get
are
in.
in.
No, the Bears.
The Bears have it over the Cardinals.
Yes.
Hold on, I'm
That's
looking
why
it up.
right
Oh,
now the
okay.
Bears are the 7 seed right now.
That's
Yeah.
not what I was seeing on the playoff predictor.
You're actually
Right now,
correct.
the Cardinals.
No,
Yeah.
it is. I
It
saw
is.
it. The
Yep,
guy
8
on
and
Sunday
8.
night on NBC had it, and
Bears-
that's why they have them as the 7 seed right now. Yeah, yeah. The Cardinals have to either
So
win.
they got to win.
The Cardinals have to win. Actually, yeah, like they
Yeah.
have to win. Bottom line,
Yep.
because the Bears are ahead of them right now because they moved ahead with the Cardinals' last loss. So Kyler Murray's banged up. There's talk about his status was in doubt. I think he's gonna go. So the fact that he goes, because if Goff was healthy, I would think the Rams win that game and the Cardinals are out. But with Goff being out, I think even with the Rams defense and as reeling as the Cardinals are, I think the Cardinals find a way with Goff out to win that game. But I think the Rams backslide in because I think the Bears, the Packers will take care of the Bears. So I think it's going to end up being Cardinals is the 6th seed, Rams is the 7th seed, and then the Rams probably aren't going to have Goff back for the first round of the playoffs, so they'll probably get obliterated by the Saints.
Well, the
maybe
really
even
fun thing is
Seahawks.
like me and Aggie were looking at it, and I think like on almost every projection, if the Cardinals get in, they're going to play the Seahawks the first week, and we know
Yeah.
what kind of games they've produced this year. So, I mean, we have a really good first round matchup coming there if that's what happens.
Well, if
also
that's
have
what
a-
happens, that's what it would be. Yeah.
We also
Yeah.
have
One of
Tampa
the things
Bay,
I
who's
do wanna
probably going
say
to
is-
be that 5 seed playing
But the
against
Cardinals,
NFC
man, the
East.
Cardinals are going the wrong way. I don't know that
Yeah.
they would even give the Seahawks a good game the way they're playing.
Yeah, they might not be. Hey, one of the things I wanted to say is a shout out to the XFL. Apparently, the Eagles need to get Vince McMahon in the front office because that dude's league can evaluate some QBs. All those guys coming into the NFL right now and actually playing meaningful snaps and being successful, kind of been a little bit impressive actually.
Who?
Who's that?
Tyler Heineke's going to be playing. We got the Wofford guy.
He's been in the
And
NFL.
Tyler Heineke was-
for-
Yeah, he was a
in
backup
the
for the
NFL.
Vikings in the car in the
He's been a
in the
backup for a
Panthers.
lot of NFL.
Yeah, but he played in the XFL. and
Shout
was
out
like
to,
one of
by the way,
Shout out
shout
to
out
Old
to Tyler
Dirty.
Heineke
Yeah.
from my alma mater,
Yeah,
ODU. Yep.
Yeah.
Old Dirty, baby. He's
Yeah,
gonna surprise some folks this week if he gets a chance to play. I'm
He's the
telling
better-
you.
I'm rocking it because I hope he does
Sling
play
it,
this
so do
weekend.
you.
I need him to be the guy this weekend because
Yeah,
Alex
let's,
Smith would be a better chance of Washington.
let's talk about that for a minute. Who do we
Is that-
like at the end of the day? Who do we think is getting in from the East? I got my money
I
on
don't
the
think
Cowboys.
Philly. Well, actually, I have my money on Washington. With
Me
the
too.
backup.
Washington.
Because the Eagles have nothing to play for, I
Yeah.
think Washington gets it done and wins. Because if Washington
We're
wins,
not-
they're in.
We're
And
not
then-
playing any of our aging 35-year-old veterans who get paid way too much money. We're gonna make sure they don't get hurt.
I feel
by
like
the end
Jalen
of the
Hurts
year.
has something to play for.
Yeah, I think he will.
Jalen Hurts has something to prove still.
But the
He
bottom
wants
line
to,
is
but-
he can have something to prove all he wants, but that Washington front is tough.
Yeah, but you
And if he
still want
couldn't
to
get it
play.
done against Dallas
Yeah,
for
exactly.
17 points,
If
he's
it
not going to get
wasn't-
it done against
If
them.
it wasn't a team that was in their division, I might agree with that, saying like, okay, it doesn't really matter. But I feel like they want to play spoiler. Like if I'm Philly, I'm like, okay, I want to knock the Redskins out. Like I don't
We
care
lost
about Aggie's
earlier in
whole
the
like,
year with our
oh, we hate
entire
the
They'd rather
Cowboys
knock the
more.
Dwayne
Cowboys out,
Haskins
dude.
in
I'm
as
telling you, they
quarterback.
would.
You want to knock a
We
team out that you
listen.
can play and beat them.
We played against the Redskins the very first game of the year with Dwayne Haskins in with our best team that we could possibly field, and we lost. So now we're coming in at this point in the season with our team completely injured. We suck, and the Redskins have improved throughout the year, minus the fact
Football
that
team.
they don't know if the football team.
And they have everything to play for, and y'all have nothing to play for.
Exactly.
And
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep. Well, we'll
yeah,
see.
that's
We'll
why
see
I
what
think
happens.
Dallas will take care of their business. I think we'll beat the Giants, and then we'll just have to wait to get our hearts broken on Sunday
Aggie
night
Puddin
when
Puddin is
Washington
not
beats-
happy with your pessimism.
I mean,
again.
he knows me. He's known me a long time. And you know what, Puddin? I want to give you a shout out too and say happy birthday. Tomorrow is Puddin's birthday.
All right,
Oh, happy
Puddin.
birthday,
Shout out
Thanks for
to
being a
another
loyal
one of our
viewer.
listeners. But yeah, I think Washington gets it done. Unfortunately,
He said, "Give me
just
an
don't
ain't no
trust
way,
Philly.
ain't no way."
hey, one
so,
thing.
yeah,
One thing
apparently
we
I
have
have
to
a
talk
power. If I
about.
say there's no way something's going to happen, usually happens. There's no way Philly's going to beat Washington.
So this is what happened this weekend. I'm glad that Uncle G's watching and some of the other viewers because in one Sunday I got to experience Aggie and Juddy both being Debbie Downers the entire. This game's over. This team sucks. There ain't no way they're winning. And Trav was just kind of quietly. He wasn't really saying anything. He did disengage from the game, but I got to experience all of this like negativity, all this pessimism, and then both teams came back and won, and it was really fun for me.
Juddy was
kinda
ready.
see.
Juddy was ready for Tomlin to bench Bennon at halftime.
Yeah,
I was not.
Yes, you were.
Yeah,
Yes,
I
you
was
were.
not.
Yeah, he was.
You were like,
You
is
got-
this legitimate? Like,
I will
is it
literally show.
reasonable
I will
to say
literally
this
like
is
bring
legitimate?
out the proof of the Marco Polos where I said like,
And
Dude, you were
Is-
done.
is
You
there
asked
le-
a question.
yeah,
You
a
said,
question
is it
that I saw.
legitimately
I
a
asked a
thing
question that I
made Bench
saw
get benched?
online where somebody said, "Is it legitimate to ask?" Should they consider bringing in Ben for the sake of rest his body if he's really that hurt? Rest his body, like let him get right for the playoffs.
That wasn't why.
Dude,
No,
you
that
can
was
you can
not
go
the
back if you want.
context.
You can go back and
Let
look
the
at it if you
record
want.
show, and Dan knows it.
Yeah.
Let the record show that I told y'all Ben was not the problem. Mason Rudolph certainly isn't going to give us a better chance to win than Ben, and that's what I told y'all from the start. And I did disengage. I did not disengage from watching the game. I disengaged emotionally from hoping that our offense could do anything and that we could win until our offense proved something to me about moving the ball. And then when they scored the first touchdown, then I re-engaged.
Hey, all I know is that because I don't have that vested emotional interest in the Steelers, when y'all were like, when Juddy was getting ready to jump off the edge of the cliff there, I was just like, hey man, it's not just Ben. It's like the whole team's playing bad right now, And in the second half, you know what? The O-line, they held up in pass protection.
Who's
Ben had
laughing now,
time.
O-line? No,
Yeah,
I mean
he chucked the
honestly,
ball.
I have never in the time I've watched the Steelers, I've never, aside from the occasional third down channel flip, I have never had to step away from a game. And I went out back, sat in my chair. I was just sitting there and I was just like, I can't even watch this. We were down 21-7 and this was before their field goal drive. I didn't watch their field goal drive. I went outside for about 10 minutes and I came back. It was almost like I had to have my own halftime speech, for Ben. I had to tell myself, I'm not having fun in there. I'm really not having fun inside watching this game. So I was like, I'm just going to go in there and have fun and just it is what it is. We're not going to win today. It's fine. I got to start accepting the reality that this might be the future of some bad years for the Steelers. And then
That was kind of your mindset.
that was my mindset. I was just so
the sky was
depressed
falling
almost. I have
Ben's
not felt that way
done.
ever about the Steelers
Figner's
where I'm
gone.
Let me say
Hopeless.
one thing.
Hopeless
One
was
thing
what I
I'll take
felt.
credit. I'll take credit for. I know all of us have superstitions and we believe in it and stuff. Whatever. I have a game day shirt, that I've had, and I changed it a while back. That every time the Steelers win, I don't wash the shirt. Right? We keep winning, so we actually went 11 straight weeks without washing it this week. But I had one from the years of watching like from like 2005 or 2004 all the way to like 2012, and then I like switched it up, or like probably like even later than that. I went back to that shirt. It's actually the 2004 AFC North Division Champions 2004 shirt. From 3 Super Bowl appearances that got us to, and 2 Super Bowl wins. I changed that shirt at halftime, and we went, and the offense all of a sudden comes back and win. So I take full responsibility for the Steelers comeback.
Trav, was that the same
I
year?
believe that was the reason we came back.
Was that the
And
same
I'll be
year?
Wearing that shirt. I'll be wearing that shirt the rest of this year, maybe back into future years.
That shirt is pretty raggedy looking. I just want to let everybody know it is pretty raggedy looking.
Are you wearing that for the rest of the season, Trev? That is
yeah.
the question.
Absolutely.
For sure.
All
Is
right.
that the same year? Is that the same year we played the Jets in the divisional round with the missed field goal? 04?
Yeah, that was the year we won that shirt's from Ben's rookie year. So I got the shirt at the end of the year because we won the division that year. So I probably didn't start wearing it as my quote unquote game day shirt until 2005. We won the Super Bowl in 05. We went again in 08, and we went to 1 in 10. I stopped wearing it like right about the changing of the guard when like Polamalu and them all started leaving. I changed it up. So I don't know, man. I'm just saying it can't be a coincidence.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it's still got some magic left in it, but that's going to actually wrap up our standard show for today. But we're going to continue the show. But thank you guys for joining us. We'll have a little bit of the after show coming at you now, where we're talking about some of our divisional picks and then a little bit of college football. Shout out to one of our viewers. Sorry watching the Canes lose. How about them Dolphins? I'm assuming that's Tom. And we did get some good Dolphins talk you can listen to from earlier on in the show, where we all kind of think that the Dolphins are probably going to get in the playoffs given this weekend's game against Buffalo. But thanks for joining us again. You guys can listen to this on Spotify and Apple, and subscribe on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. So let's go into some of the after show stuff.
So I guess one of the things we want to do is look at those divisional picks from the beginning of the year. Maybe we can kick that off and just talk
I'm gonna pull it up real quick.
Yeah, let me throw it up on the screen.